I lace up my shoes and step outside because it's the only thing that shuts my brain up. The road stretches out ahead of me. I do it for the space it makes in my head, for the way the noise finally goes quiet. My breath settles into rhythm, my thoughts stop racing, and my body pays attention. Each step a small promise to keep moving forward. Grief walks beside me, but it softens. Running becomes a reset I can't fake, a small pocket of time for myself. Somewhere between the miles, I find myself building resilience, heart beating, proof that I'm still here. And slowly, somehow, it helps you get into a good mood, even when there are a million reasons not to be. Because running, like life, keeps going, and it can help you through the hardest and happiest moments in your life.
My name's Lizzy, and I'm 39, and this is my grief journey. So I guess it starts when I first entered this world. I was born into a family where my brother and sister were born with a life-limiting illness called MPS, Sanfilippo syndrome, which was a rare degenerative disease. They couldn't walk, talk, they couldn't eat for themselves, so had gastrostomy tubes, and they couldn't swallow properly, so suction, so we had 24-hour around-the-clock care. We had night nurses living in our house. We had my mum and dad obviously looking after Tom and Katie, and they went to special needs schools, so being exposed to that life from the word go, I knew no different. And we used to spend a lot of our holidays in Helen House, which is the world's first children's hospice. And my sister, when I was 5, got taken very ill, and she was 11, and she died at Helen House. And I just knew something wasn't quite right, even then, at that young age. Up until that point, I hadn't really known what it was for someone to die. You know, you don't when you're 5 years old. We're in your family bubble, and my parents were always so good at making my childhood a really happy one, considering what we were about to experience as a family. I really remember not being able to say goodbye, even at that young age. But again, my parents were brilliant at, explaining to me that she's gone to heaven and she was at peace. That was my first insight into what it was like to lose someone you love. And at 5 years old, it was a big deal. And then I remember sort of moving on with just my brother. I would go for walks with my mum and dad and Tom, and we'd chat about him being poorly and how we were going to handle that as a family. And our motto as a family was, we look for the good, because in our family situation, things weren't always good. Things were really, really horrendous at times. My brother used to have horrendous seizures, and I was taught how to handle those if I was ever on my own with him. So imagine a 10-year-old having to hold their brother whilst he's having a seizure and talk to him and tell him it's going to be okay. I felt like I really had to grow up very quickly from a very early age, and but you just did it, you just got on with it, and that was my life. I loved him and I wanted to help him, so I felt in that moment that's what I was doing, and I knew no different. So you just get on with it. With my brother, all I knew, I knew it was coming, we all knew it was coming. Doesn't make it any easier. Imagine a 12-year-old me watching my brother die in my arms. After Tom died, that's when I discovered running. Finding peace and a sense of self in the great outdoors, whether it be walking, running, cycling, swimming. Letting out every emotion, every exertion just calms your mind, it calms your body. So in those moments of when I was missing the people that I love the most, I could just let it out. It was a sense of escapism, but it was also a sense of healing as well. I was really fortunate to have good friends back then, but obviously I was alone. I was incredibly alone and had to deal with these massive life changes and these massive feelings all on my own. So from about the age of 9, my mum developed breast cancer, and that's when it really hit her, and she lost her hair and her skin changed. And it was the summer when I'd just done my A-levels. Mum and Dad sat me down and said, your mum's been given 6 months. The chemo taking over, the shitty chemo. There was one night in particular where I'd been out with some friends and I looked at my phone and I'd had 15 missed calls from my dad, and I thought, this isn't good, something's wrong and I need to get home. And Mum had been on a lot of morphine and had to be restrained and carried out. So to see your mum go from this incredibly strong woman, seeing cancer and these horrendous drugs just take her away like that is, as an 18-year-old, having to witness that was really tough. And again, I was on my own. It's not even been a year since my dad died. He developed MND back in September 2024. He just lost his ability to walk and use his body, and I think seeing him really hit me how life is so short, but having that time to be with him in a way was actually, it helped when the day finally came that I had to say goodbye. If I let myself, those moments play over and over again in my head, every grief journey has felt different and life just feels a little different every time. Just a sense of it's so unfair and it's cruel, and how dare they be taken away from me. I only had them for a short amount of time. It's just not fair sometimes. It's not fair sometimes. Sorry. You just miss them every day, and people say that time's a healer, but time isn't. You learn to live without them and you learn to move on. You just have to pick yourself up, look for the good, and think, I have a choice. I have to carry on. exercise for me can help release heavy emotions that grief brings, and it can help just regulate your mind, body, and just help you get ready for the day, get ready to tackle just life in general without them. Moving my body can calm my grieving mind 100%. I've definitely noticed that, especially after Dad. It allows those really strong emotions on days where you just don't want to get out of bed, and just think, even if I just go out for a half an hour walk or a half an hour run, and actually having Humphrey, my dog, has, got me out. That's been a massive part of this grief journey, and being able to have him and know that he's there is just great comfort. And I heard a quote that it was, exercise gives grief a quiet place to go, and I really, really resonate with that. When life is busy and you have all these outside noises and grief in the mix of all that, getting out and running or swimming in a pool or a sea makes everything stop for a while, and you can reset and regroup and move forward with a quiet strength. I think that's the big one for me.